Martians, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you are lucky enough to be doing it too. I'm Bushcron Blitz, and I am back with a review fresh from the hot seat of home. I'm home, boys and girls. I'm so happy to be home. Loved a holiday, loved spending time with the family, loved doing the Twister Cup in New York, but it's been a full bore couple of weeks, and I am sitting in my Harvard chair at my desk in front of my new MacBook Pro. And don't I feel like a deal with that thing. I'm going to try and improve the video quality of the channel, but this one is still going to be done on iMovie in the old way, which is on the iPad. This is the T57, the Type 57 Heavy at the top of the new American line. And it's a mixed line. It's lights, mediums, and eventually the only heavy tank in the line, the Type 57, rears its head at Tier X, Tier 10. And it's a pretty unique vehicle. I'm going to get that out of the way right now. It's not going to be for everyone, and it's certainly not the same as it is in PC. In fact, it's got some glaring weak points, and it doesn't feel like a heavy whatsoever. This feels like a slow sniper, and I'm going to get to that, and I'm going to explain it. I'm going to talk you through exactly why, but the main reason is it's got quite a good gun, and it's got an excellent turret traverse. The strongest point for this tank, well, there's two things. Its burst damage is insanely good. You're putting out 1,200 damage on average every 10 seconds. Its burst is great, and its turret traverse is insane. You have 44 degrees of turret traverse on this tank when you're running all the bells and whistles. And I'm going to talk to you about the bells and whistles. You might have noticed there's a new dynamic display thing going on with Blitz, where they'll actually show you everything as it's done. So the way I'm going to do reviews from here on in is actually give you my equipment loadout and the provisions that I'm using, and then give you the stats as they're affected by those provisions. So I'm running full double ration provisions, improved and the lesser version, an improved fuel provision, the big one. I'm running vents. You can't run rammer on this, so I'm running vents, vertical stabilizer to improve my aim time and accuracy, and binoculars of all things. And the binoculars will give you a view range on this of like 330 meters when stationary, which is pretty bloody cool, 336. And it plays right into the playstyle. So with those things taken into account, the gun is 0.310 dispersion. Your aim time is 3.7 seconds. You have an 18.61 second reload time, and you're pumping out about 7.12 rounds a minute. But don't worry too much about the base DPM. This thing is an ideal peek-a-boom weapon. You're bursting through with damage, but I'm going to show you the real issue with it. And it's one of the reasons why this is not a tank that I consider at all to be a heavy tank. This is the armor profile when firing your 258 millimeters worth of AP. Look at that turret. It is not special. Anywhere underneath the actual turret top is rubbish. And what's worse is if you fire heat, which is 340 millimeters a pen, and by no means the biggest penning gun you're going to see at tier 10, then everything turns like everything's pennable on top. The turret itself is different because it slides up and down on an axis, and you can see the supports of the turret either side of it. But this is the big issue for me. Aim at the gun with AP rounds and you pen it. There's nothing there. There's no gun mantlet. I'm going to put 3 straight through Mojo's turret and kill him using AP right through the gun. Now that's an issue. I'm slowing this down. Look, that's AP 258 millimeters a pen. Everyone's got that. You get to tier 10, that is everyone's standard ammunition rounds. And you can see the hull is very, very weak. There's a huge lower glacis. Everywhere from the middle down on the chassis is just pennable. Everywhere on the turret, either side, like there's huge big weak points. And if you use heat, you can pen all over the top of the actual gun deck. And the gun thing has to be an issue, and I'm going to be obviously forwarding this through to the powers that be at Wargaming, because this, if you can basically aim down the barrel of a gun and shoot it, that's not very good at all. And there's a few tanks you can do this on, but none of them are really heavy tanks. And this is just especially with something that can pump out as much damage as this. And you can see the burst. It's fantastic. So what I've found to be the most successful way of using this tank is not as a heavy at all. Driving it with an IS-7 or something big and nasty is really good. And if you've got to run it solo, like I did a lot of games solo in this. In fact, the last game I'm going to show you is solo. You can take advantage of the good things it's got going for it. The accuracy, which is excellent for something with this much burst. The damage, the pure peekaboom damage. And I want to talk about peekaboom damage. That's where you hide and you do not come out till you have a full clip. And that's really important because going out with one clip is going to get you 400 and then a 20-second reload. You don't want to be doing that. You want to basically be using this tank as a battering ram peekaboom fighter. So when you get the chance, you pull out, you fire your shots, and then you pull back. And it's not always going to work, but it's something no other heavy tank can do, right? You can pump out 3 really, really quick shots it's actually under 10 seconds. So from 0, you've got 3.3 seconds to the second one, and then 3.3 seconds to the third one. So you're looking at 6.6 seconds with the provisions and equipment that I'm running here. So in 6.6 seconds, sorry, not 10 seconds, that was a mistake, you can actually roll out 1,200 damage. And that's very, very impressive. So running 2 of these together can be a little bit of a worry because they're not particularly strong tanks armor-wise, and neither of them can hold a front line. But if you can coordinate damage with them, you can really smash. And that's something that I've done too, and that's been a whole lot of fun. Now, I want to talk to you about the turret. The tank has 8 degrees of gun depression, which isn't enough really in my opinion. It's good, but it's 8 degrees, not 10 degrees. I'd love it to be 10 degrees. It's also got this incredible traverse rate. So your traverse is 37 degrees on your tracks with the provisions I'm talking about and the vents that I'm running. And your turret traverse is 44 degrees. Now, why that is so good is anytime a medium is having a go at you, you are going to get around and you're not going to be COD'd. You'll be able to keep pace with them quite comfortably, and you'll be very, very hard for them to take out. Plus, if you're on a medium flank with this kind of heavy, then you will be able to be a huge intimidating factor. The other thing you can do is stuff like this, where you just roll forward and you basically push yourself into the middle of really sticky situations and bring to bear immediate, massive, and horrifyingly large amounts of damage. And that's something that this tank can do that none other can, as a heavy anyway. And we're using that in a very, very loose terminology. There's a couple of things that do disappoint me with this. Quite apart from the armor, which is not very good. The speed. If you're going to have a tank with such a light armor profile, it's got 35 kilometers an hour as a top speed. And that's just not good enough these days. You look at your IS-4s, your IS-7s, even the biggest, heaviest tanks in the game, they get up to that, right? And they get up there pretty comfortably. You're not even near the top of the pack in terms of speed. Now, it's an agile tank, don't get me wrong, but it is not a fast tank. And that's a big difference. And you can see here, we're just pumping damage. This poor old 215B has pushed up and we've just dropped 3 shells on him. Bang, bang, bang. And it's worked a treat. The issue there is obviously we've taken a shell from him and there's no way that you're not going to be able to do that. Like, people that fire at you are going to be very, very likely to pen you unless you angle it pretty severely like I did there. I would run a pair of binoculars on this simply because you can't run a rammer, and I am treating this very much as a second tier sniper tank. And when you do that, when you let the game go and let it come to you, you can really enforce your will on it. It's a freakishly devastating tank when you are firing from strong positions. You also want to be able to hull down with this thing at all times. I mean, your armor profile isn't fantastic, but it is better hull down than in any other situation. And your turret moves so quickly that you can track targets really well, and you don't have to wait a long time to get shots off. I've found it to be excellent hull down. I'm going to show you a game in a second which I had on Fort Despair, where I really worked the back areas of the map and just kept finding little bits and pieces and bits of damage here and there until the end, where we went hull down just in the back of the spawn and did very, very well indeed. For comparison's sake, the gun at .310 dispersion is exactly the same as the 120mm M58 that the T110E5 runs. You've got the 120mm T179. They've got slightly more rounds a minute. They've got 7.52 on the E5 after vents and that. That's because you can run a rammer on that. It's not an autoloader, so you can actually get a little bit more joy out of that gun. 3.1 seconds of aim time, which is a little bit better on the E5. 3.7 seconds on the Type 57. The E5 does go 37 kilometers an hour, but the real sticky part with the E5 is it maxes out at 30 degrees of traverse with all its stuff on it, like with provisions and rations and vents and such. It maxes out at 30 degrees and 25 on the turret. Whereas with this thing, you are killing it. 37 degrees of traverse on your tracks and 44 degrees on your turret. It's the original. We always say Heavium. Heavium is like a 215B or an M103 or a Conqueror or something like that, which is a heavy with medium tendencies. This is the exact opposite. This is a medium, I don't know what you'd call it. It's a medium with heavy tendencies. It's got a slower top end speed, but its turret traverse, its track traverse, its damage output, it's really feels a lot more like a medium than anything else. And look at this. We've decided we're going to take out that Jagdpanzer E100. We're behind a big bit of ground. We are just popping up there, and we have absolutely wrecked him. Bang, bang, bang. We're hull down again. We're resetting. And this is something else you need to do. A lot of times you can bluff people. They won't know how many shots you fired. And you probably saw me do it a little bit earlier in this match. Look at this. I got one round in the kick. The Type 62, T62A doesn't know this. So instead of pulling back all the way so he thinks, oh, he's on a reload, I push around. And I keep pretending to push around. So he's worried about getting hit. And it backs him off. You're going to learn to do things like that in the T57. It's a typical autoloader. Now, this poor old E100, very, very poor gun handling. This thing's got great gun handling. The turret moves like a snake. And we've still got a couple left there in the kick bag. So we're moving right up here to try and put them both into the C100. We're going to do that here. Heat right through the gun mantlet, through the flat bits on either side of the gun. And again, and backing up. And this is where the tank is spectacular. Look, I've had mates who say it's an absolute train wreck, and I don't think it is. I think it's got big issues that need to be fixed. Namely, the turret armor is not up to squash. But it can do things like this, where we've pumped along and just put 3 straight through and done 1,000 damage like that onto an E100 and absolutely wrecked him. That's the tank performing in its best element. I think you've got to use it as a second line sniper unless you're with a Discord platoon or a voice chat platoon where you can hear each other and you've got a mate running an IS-7 or something big and nasty, or even a medium, and they're flanking and they're spotting targets for you and moving up, and you're that heavy hand of justice that comes in on a reload and smacks 3 quick shots in and pulls back out. Because let's face it, you can fire between an E100 reloading a shell, you can put out 1,200 damage and then pull back. And they're the situations you've got to look for and find if you want to be successful. Now, I'm going to be doing a lot of reviews on the Americans this week, heaps of them in fact. It's all I'm going to be playing, and I'm going to get them done ASAP. The next one I'm probably going to do is the Tier 9. I'm going to do it in reverse order, just because it's how I operate. I'm a bit of a strange human. I might do the Tier 9 next, and I'll see how I go. But they're coming, right? They're all coming. I might even start at the bottom, because that makes a lot more sense. I'm an idiot. I think the T57 will probably get a little buff. I can't guarantee it though. It's unique. It's nothing like any other Tier 10 tank you're going to find. It's pretty sensational. It's our first Tier 10 autoloader. And I think what they've probably done is erred on the side of caution with it, rather than actually just go nuts out and give you this thing that is going to dominate. They've probably learned a few lessons from tanks like the IS-3 Defender, in that, you know, you can really screw up with these autoloaders. You really can. It's dropped a little bit of a clip since the PC version, and I think that's right. I think it would be a very poor tank in terms of balance. If it had 4 in the clip, that's just too much. It's just too much damage. I do think that they need to get the gun fixed so that you can't pen straight through the gun, and maybe buff the turret armor a touch, because you can still pen it with heat at 340, and all your Tier X TDs will go straight through the turret armor of a tank like this. If you're not going to buff the armor, I would suggest you up the top speed. Just give it like a 45 kilometer an hour top speed and be done. Call it a medium and be done. I would love that. Or call it a heavium. I don't mind. But at the 35 kilometer an hour top speed, it's just too low. It gets smashed trying to get to choke points and things by bigger tanks with better armor profiles like the IS-7 and the IS-4. And, you know, it needs a little bit of something. It's not overpowered at all, though, and it does do the business, and that's a great thing. So there's going to be lots of stuff coming up, guys. As always, if you'd consider sponsoring the channel, that would be lovely. That's how we put the food on the table and keep the lights on. I want to say thanks to everyone who's been supporting me over the past couple of weeks, both in New York and while I was on hiatus. Lots of guys from Wargaming stepped up and helped me out. In New York, and I want to thank Wargaming for that opportunity. It was great. I met a heap of Triari boys. In fact, I've got a photo from the aircraft carrier, the Intrepid, with a bunch of the Triaris, and they were a bit loose. There's Trucker Dan, Straight Up Jack, and all the other fellas, and Trucking, great blokes. Really enjoyed it. I hope you stick around. I hope you're here for the long haul like me. I've got a lot of content coming up, and I really want to grow the channel, and I want to grow Patreon, and I want to institute some tournament stuff, because I found tournaments to be some of the most fun and exciting things I've ever done in my life. And I want to commentate on those. So I'm going to be doing a lot of community-based tournament work, especially with the Patreon guys, but also in a broader sense with Wargaming as well. So look after yourselves, guys. Stick around and stay safe on the battlefield, and make sure you look after those families, because they're well worth the effort. I'm Bush Gromblitz. You've been lovely. Till next time, bye for now.